Guess who's back? Back again. Mikey's back. Tell a friend. Hey everybody, here we are with another video for you guys today. And today I am going to rank all of my arcade machines in my arcade here for you guys. We're going to go through each one of them individually, and I'm going to give you what I like about them, what I don't like about them, and a real honest, fair assessment here. But before I go any further, let me just say, if you like this video, any of the videos on the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're a really big fan of the content, why don't you head over to Mikey J Productions, my main channel, and become a member. We got a great community we're building, and I'd love for you all to be a part of it. I'm going to be ranking all these cabinets in the criteria of build quality, game library, aesthetic appeal, replayability, and X factor. So 5 different criteria, and I'm going to give them all a rating of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, obviously. I'll be getting into my ranking of all the arcade machines in my arcade after the intro coming in now.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
JP!
I want
MJP!
I want my
MJP!
I want my
MJP!
Call your cable company and say I want my
MJP! So here's my arcade, and I have 10 different machines here from different companies, and I'm going to rank them for you guys all based on the following criteria: build quality, game library, aesthetic appeal, replayability, and X factor. An X factor can mean any number of different things. And first we're going to start with the Marvel Pinball, and I gave it a 7 in build quality and an 8 for aesthetic appeal. It's a very nice looking machine, and as far as Arcade 1-Up, it's one of their better built cabs. And then for game library, I gave them a 7, and replayability, I gave them a 7. The game library, while you can get more games on it through different means, the 10 that are included for what this is, a virtual pinball machine, is really solid library in my opinion. And the replayability, I enjoy the tables on this cab. I really do.
Hey, Spider-Man. It's just you and us.
Aren't you bored of trying to kill me yet, Eddie? All you ever do is fail at it.
Life is meaningless. Chaos. The universe has no center. It's treating a creative.
It's these kind of little things like that that really help separate this cab, in my opinion, because you're not trying to be an actual real pinball table. It is, virtual pin, and it really provides a really quality experience in that regard, in my opinion. And I just think it's a fun cabinet. Oh, so overall we have a 7 for build quality, 7 for game library, 8 for aesthetic appeal, 7 for replayability, and 7 for X factor, with a total score of 36 out of 50, which is a pretty good score, I gotta say. But having said that, this cabinet, this machine isn't perfect. One of the problems that I have had and other people have had is your PCBs can overheat, and so it's definitely something to be aware of. I only turn my machine on when I'm actually going to play it. I don't just leave it on, and so that hurts some of the overall score. If it didn't have that issue with the PCBs, I'd actually probably put this up a little bit higher. But as is, I'm overall really satisfied with the cabinet. It serves the purpose I want to have. Obviously, the Legends Ultimate Pinball, that is probably your better bet, and most people that are into virtual pinball are probably going to go that route. But I chose this route, and it does the job for me for having a virtual pinball machine. And next up we have my Mortal Kombat 2. This is a Wave 1 original one, and for build quality I gave it a 6. Aesthetic appeal I gave it a 6 as well. And mine actually has HAP buttons and joysticks installed in it, so I'm ranking it based on that as well. And so for the game library, I gave it a 5, and replayability, I gave it a 6. Even though it only has 3 games on it, these are the 3 best Mortal Kombat games in my opinion, and so you really can't, be too unsatisfied with it there. The X Factor, I gave it an 8 because Mortal Kombat is one of the greatest fighting franchises of all time, and it really, it's a cab you must own, and overall I give it a 31 out of 50. And next up we have Big Blue Street Fighter 2 from Arcade 1UP. Build quality, I gave it a 7. Aesthetic appeal, I gave it a 7 as well. And it's one of the better looking Arcade 1UP cabinets, I will say that. And here is my custom control deck that has IL sticks and hat buttons installed, but you can see it's a little bit shorter than the other Arcade 1UP cabs. And for library, I gave it a 6, and replayability, I gave it a 6. Even though it has, strong games, it has 12 games on it, and they're all good games. Some of the games that I feel like are missing from this collection hold the cabinet back. Final Fight specifically. I would have liked to have seen some different choices that were made on this. I don't know if I needed all 3 of the Darkstalkers games. Knights of the Round is a good game. Eco Fighters, I could have picked a better shmup from the Capcom library. Capcom Sports Club, it's alright. I didn't need both of these wrestling games. The X Factor, I give it a 6. It does have online play, but here I logged in, and this is on Championship Edition, and there's no one to play. And so here's my overall score with it. I gave it a 33 out of 50, which is actually a pretty good score overall. There was just a couple of things holding this cabinet back. I wish I could give it a little bit higher, but this is how I feel with my Big Blue, everyone. So, there we are with that. And next up we have my MVSX by Unico, this Neo Geo cabinet. And this one is definitely a sleeper. Build quality is an 8, and aesthetic appeal is an 8 as well. Here's a look at the base. Molded coin door is a nice touch. I have mine on furniture risers, but you can get an official riser as well. But the control panel is a solid control panel. It's not amazing. I have IL sticks and hat buttons in it. But what really brings this cab out is the marquee. This is the best looking marquee in my arcade. It's beautiful. And for game library, I'm giving it a 9, and replayability, I'm actually giving it an 8. Here we're taking a look at the included games that came on the cabinet, and it's got a nice selection of 50 games, but it's very fighters heavy, so if you're a fighting fan, this is like a must-buy in my opinion. But if you like the full feel of the Neo Geo library, you will be a little bit disappointed here. But the reason I gave it a 9 is also due to the X Factor, and that is the Hilo X hack. And I have the Omega version of it, and this is the best way to sideload games onto your any of these cabinets, with maybe the exception of the Legends Ultimate from AtGames. But the menu system and everything on this works so well, and you can see I have all of the Neo Geo library here, complete library. So that's definitely a plus for having a big red machine like this. But not only does it have all the Neo Geo games, but the Omega hack Also has some really great other arcade games, and here we are going through, and we're still in the Neo Geo category here, but here we are. There's some Street Fighter, Bad Dudes, The Simpsons, Golden Axe, RoboCop, Sailor Moon, Shinobi, both Dungeons and Dragons games. Those are awesome. 1941, just Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Final Fight, Knights of the Round, just so many great games here are playable on this cabinet, which is really, really cool. And they play great for the most part. Yeah, there's going to be a couple that maybe don't run so great, but all the ones here that you're seeing, they all play how they're supposed to, all the games. And so that's really the X factor, and the potential game library you can put on this cabinet is really what brings up the score on this particular machine. Yes, I upgraded my sticks and buttons. The stock ones are what brings the build quality down, but still, it's a really well built cabinet as well. And here is my final score on it, and it ended up with a 42 out of 50. It's a really quality arcade cabinet that a lot of people slept on, unfortunately. And with the awesome X factor of being able to sideload so many games onto it, it's really a hard to beat cabinet in the home arcade space, in my opinion. I've been in love with this cab since I first bought it and got it home and turned it on. So yeah, MVSX. And next up, when I have my Atari 12-in-1 Asteroids conversion, and the build quality, I'm giving a 5. Aesthetic appeal, I'm giving a 6. I have the GRS spinner and trackball, and that really helps with the aesthetic appeal on this thing. And again, this is just the original Asteroids cab, but I have the 12-in-1 PCB in here. And due to that, the game library is actually pretty solid with this. I'll give it a 7. And the replayability, I'm giving it a 5. The X Factor, I'm also giving it a 7 because you can get the Glenn's Retro Show trackball and spinner upgrade for this thing, and that really helps. One of the biggest thing that holds this cabinet back is not all the games high score save, and these are all high score chasing games, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But overall, if you can get your hands on the Atari 12-in-1, it's a pretty darn good cabinet overall. And next up we have my Gen 1 Pac-Man, and with build quality I'm giving this one a 4, aesthetic appeal a 5. I installed a zippy stick joystick in mine, that helps. But it just comes with 2 games, Pac-Man and Pac-Man Plus. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one. Game library, I gave it a 2. It's got 2 games, but really the only one you're probably going to play is original Pac-Man. Replayability 4, X Factor 5. I give it the 5 due to the fact that it's Pac-Man, and everybody wants to have Pac-Man in their arcade. But yeah, there's better versions of this cabinet out on the market for sure, and it's going to end up being my lowest rated cab out of 20 out of a 50. And next up we have the iiRcade, and I'm basing this on the original Wave 1 version, and the build quality I'm giving it a 9. The aesthetic appeal is 7. It's a nice looking cabinet, but I wouldn't say it's the prettiest in my arcade, no. But again, I'm basing this on my particular cabinet, not the gold editions or anything like that. I like the control deck, good buttons and sticks and everything. And then the game library, I'm giving it an 8. And again, I'm basing this on my game library. But I'm also keeping the overall library in consideration as well, because if there was something I really wanted to get, I would have gotten it, And replayability, I'm giving it an 8. This cab has it really does good in both of these areas. So, that's definitely something to consider as well. And the game library itself, I'm happy with my game library. Yeah, sure, there's some games more on the official store I don't have that I wouldn't mind picking up at some point. But I'm happy with my game selection. This is a nice, solid multi-Cade that has new games, old games, and it's got a nice community built around it as well. And the online leaderboards and stuff like that really, help with the replayability as well. So, overall, it's definitely one of the better cabinets in my collection, in all honesty. With both game library and replayability, again being high, very, very good, considering the amount of games and everything that you can end up putting on this cabinet. So, yeah, I'm happy with how it's turned out. And then the X Factor, it does have online play, but just like with Arcade 1-Up, good luck finding a game. And another part of the X Factor for this cabinet is the online store. Being able to buy, a la carte, officially released games definitely helps the iiRcade and gives it a solid X Factor of 8, in my opinion. And overall, we're looking at some really high scores here. And it is cracked the top, 40 out of 50. So that's a really good score. And I'm a fan of the iiRcade. I'm a fan of the game selections that are available on it. And again, this is really high scores for me and making it one of the absolute better cabinets in my collection. And let me add that I didn't have to do any modifications to this either. So some of the other cabs I'm ranking against have been fairly heavily modified, and this one is still stock. And next up we have my Switch Cade, and this is original Arcade 1-Up cabinet, so I'm giving it the build quality of a 6. The aesthetic appeal only a 5. It's not the prettiest thing in my collection, that's for sure. But where it is super strong is in the game library and replayability. As with the iiRcade, being that it's Nintendo, you have your own game library, and this is just a look at my game library. Obviously, there's a lot more games available, but there's just a lot of really good stuff here. If you're an arcade fan, and the replayability, because it does have online leaderboards, and a lot of these games you can play online against people, like or with people. Ninja Turtles and and some of the fighting games are online as well. And the X Factor, I'm also giving it a 10, and this is it has the best online capabilities, being that it's a Nintendo Switch, and the Nintendo Switch store. They have the best selection of games available out of any of these companies, and that's why I have to give the X Factor a 10. And then when you add on top of that, it still is Nintendo Switch, so you can take your arcade library with you when you want to, is another huge factor. And when you just add it all up, a Switch Cade is a 10 in X Factor, absolutely. There's nothing else that really comes close to it in the home arcade space. And here, it playing some Donkey Kong, so exclusive titles as well. And so the Switch Cade comes in with a score of 41 out of 50. Build quality and aesthetic appeal are the only things that are holding back my particular Switch Cade, but everybody's can be a little bit different. But those are still great scores. And next up we have my original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade 1-Up 4-player cabinet. And for build quality, I'm giving it a 5. These are still stock buttons and sticks in it. I never felt the need to change them in just a beat-em-up cab. But it's a really nice looking cabinet. Game library, I'm giving it a 5, and replayability a 3. Even though it's only 2 games, these are 2 classic games that you want. And the X Factor on this cabinet, I'm giving it a 7. Even though, you know, you're hardly ever going to play 4-player games with 4 people. These are just, this is a classic game that I absolutely love and I wanted to have in my arcade. It's one of my best looking machines and I just absolutely love it. So its X Factor is high and overall it's a 29 out of 50. And next up we have my Daytona USA custom Xbox 360 cab, and a build quality is 7 and aesthetic appeal of 6. The build quality, it is original an arcade 1-Up cabinet that I've heavily modified, but it's got some quality components, and you know, I'm running an Xbox 360 out of it and everything. The steering wheel and pedals are amazing, way better than you're going to get from arcade 1-Up. My game library, I'm giving it a 7. I only have 3 games: Blur, Forza Motorsports 4, and Daytona USA, of course. But the replayability, it has pretty good replayability even though it's only those 3 games, and that's due to the X Factor. And the X Factor for this cabinet, not only is it great steering wheel and pedals, but the 3 games that are included that I have here are absolutely just stellar. You can't get a better version of Daytona USA anywhere. And not only that, but when I look at everything that it goes into this cab, and not just that I made it, you know, it's the fact that you could play a classic racer like this properly and also be able to play a modern racing game like this, where this is just gonna blow away anything you can get on any other home arcade system, and that's why I'm giving this cab a 35 out of 50. And so here is my final scores, everyone. MVSX came out on top, followed by the Switch Cade, iiRcade, my Pinball, Daytona USA, Big Blue, Mortal Kombat, Atari 3-in-1, TMNT, and Pac-Man. So there's my official rank. I tried to be as objective as I could in this, so without trying to show any favoritism. Well, anyways, that's my video. Hit the like on the way out, and thanks for watching, everyone.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we got merch store. If you want to take a little piece of the show with you, you can get it right here. We got everything. You want some Mikey J stuff? We got the Mikey J Productions for you. So take a chance and stop by. We'll take care of you.